Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second screencast of a series dedicated to language attrition. These screencasts are part of the Erasmus Plus project team, Teacher Education about Multilingualism, and these materials have been developed jointly by Antonella Sorace, Roberta Spelorzi, and Mattia Zingaretti at the University of Edinburgh. In the second screencast, we will first recap the core characteristics of the phenomenon of first language attrition. Then, we will delve deep into the impact of attrition for both teachers and students of other languages. We will conclude by reflecting on the implications of attrition for both, and how language attrition can and should be considered a natural process in bilingual language development. In the previous screencast, we saw that speakers of more than one language have been found to experience changes in the way that they understand and produce their first language from very early on. These changes have been found in different language areas, from words to grammar, and also sounds, but are most often temporary and reversible. Importantly, L1 attrition may be experienced by all bilinguals, although to a different degree depending on several factors. Some of these factors include proficiency in the second language, length of residence in the second language country, context of use of both languages. But what are the implications of first language attrition in the classroom, specifically for learners and teachers of other languages? Starting from teachers of other languages, a bias towards native speaker teachers of languages has been widely reported in research and educational contexts. This bias is based on the assumption that a native speaker of a language is better equipped to teach that language to non-native speakers compared to someone who learned the language as a second language. Specifically, native speaker teachers have been reported to obtain jobs more easily than non-native speakers, thanks to their name and appearance. They are given the freedom to teach in a fun and casual way. And lastly, their credibility as a teacher is unquestioned, and they are strongly confident in their intuition as a native speaker. However, the bias for native speaker teachers is problematic because of the very same assumption it is based on. Specifically, native speakers are thought to be the best model of the language on the assumption that their use and understanding of the first language is immune to change. Yet, language teachers who teach their first language in a second language speaking environment can experience first language attrition to some degree. For example, a study looked at the perceived first language accent of Spanish teachers in the UK and monolinguals in Spain. In particular, native Spanish listeners in Spain rated short speech samples from each speaker in terms of their perceived nativeness. And interestingly, the results of this study showed significantly greater foreign accent ratings for teachers than monolinguals. Recall also from the previous screencasts that changes in the first language may also be noticed in other aspects of language, such as words and grammar. In sum, teachers' L1 intuitions can be affected by attrition as a result of speaking more than one language. This evidence challenges the notion that a first language is a stable and fixed entity, and it also raises important questions about the traditional preference for native speaker teachers.
On the other hand, first language attrition can also affect students in the classroom, especially those who have moved to a country where the dominant language is not their first language. In such situations, students may experience some signs of first language attrition due to reduced language use and exposure, as they are now living and learning in a second language environment. For example, A Chinese teenager who relocates to England and enrolls in secondary school may experience first language attrition as they're immersed in an English-speaking environment. In this case, Chinese is taught as foreign language in the school, and a teenager may find that they struggle to express themselves as fluently in Chinese as they once did. They may also find that they start to adopt the grammatical structures and usage patterns of English, the dominant language, which can further impact their first language. The impact of first language attrition on classroom students can therefore be significant as they can affect their ability to communicate effectively in their first language, which in turn can affect their performance in other academic areas. Attrition can also impact students' sense of identity and belonging, as they may feel that they're losing touch with their cultural and linguistic heritage. Having described the impact of first language attrition in the classroom, it is clear how first language attrition is a widespread phenomenon among all bilingual speakers. As such, both teachers and students who are bilingual may experience attrition, which can affect their first language skills. Teachers should therefore be aware of the potential for first language attrition in the classroom and should, firstly, encourage and support the use of the first language in a classroom settings by recognizing and valuing the first language. For example, they could provide resources and opportunities for further input and use in the first language, such as literature, media, and cultural events. These would benefit both their students and themselves, as it would help maintain their language competencies and stay connected to their heritage culture. At the same time, it should be noted that some research has suggested that there may be a link between the level reached in a second language and the degree of attrition experienced in the first, meaning that those who become more advanced in their second language may also be the ones experiencing a greater degree of attrition in their first language. Although more research is needed in this respect, teachers and students should keep this in mind, as attrition may actually be a positive sign for all bilinguals. So, to briefly recap what we will discuss in this screencast, we started by analyzing the impact of first language attrition in the classroom. Firstly, we looked at the case of native speaker teachers who are often taken as the best model of language teachers. We explained the limitation to this approach in light of evidence of first language attrition with specific reference to language teachers in a second language environment. We then discussed the case of students who may also relocate abroad and enroll in a secondary school where their first language is taught as foreign language. Such students may also undergo attrition in their first language. First language attrition can therefore affect teaching effectiveness, academic performance, as well as sense of identity and belonging. Therefore, teachers should be aware of this phenomenon, which is a natural part of bilingual language development, and encourage and support the use of the first language by providing resources and opportunities for further input and use in the first language, both for their students and for themselves. We truly hope that you enjoy learning more about the implication of first language attrition in the classroom for both teachers and students. If you want to hear more about attrition, stay tuned and watch our interview with the expert, Professor Antonella Sorace.